Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. I love you, Lord. You're the most high God. Thank you, God. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your grace. You're the most high.
Hey everyone, my name is George Originales, aka Vapor, and you are listening to Radio Faith, Episode 9. Today's guest is Jay Speaks, the poet. In our conversation, we discuss the drive behind his ministry. We also discuss a new song he released, which was influenced by Hurricane Harvey. This is my conversation with Jay Speaks, the poet. We have Jay Speaks on the line right now. He is a poet based out of Houston, and he also is a hip-hop artist as well. How are you doing today, Jay?
Oh, man, I'm awesome. Blessed.
That's awesome,
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. So let's start out just letting our audience know a little bit about who you are. If you could, give us your testimony.
Oh, awesome. I got saved in 2003. I received accepted Jesus Christ in 2003. That's a kind of testimony in itself, but I just make a long story short, I was living a promiscuous lifestyle through my teenage years and through my early 20s, and like a lot of us, many people's testimony, the partying, the drinking, the smoking, the different things like that. So then God, I was dating this young lady, and went through a kind of a heartbroken situation, and so because of that, I became real bitter in my heart, and was gonna take that promiscuity to another level in my heart. And God, we don't really realize God sees our heart, and so He saw my heart and kind of pumped the brakes on that, and He gave me a vision. I was laying in bed one day, and literally, my room, it was kind of an overshadowing situation in my room where my room became dark, and the moonlight was shining through my window, but my room became dark, and there was this figure of a person standing next to my bed, tucking my sheets in real tight. And so a few minutes later, everything went back to normal. In that moment, I couldn't move, and so I called a person who I knew who could interpret things like that the next day, and they told me God was telling me that the bed was trapping me from, furthering my relationship with Him, and trapping me from living the life that He wanted me to live. And if I didn't stop doing what I was doing or going down the path I was going down, I was going to destroy myself. And so that kind of shook me. Well, that's probably an understatement. It really shook me. So the next day, I literally, I didn't have that whole testimony where people say they gave the right hand to the pastor and walked up to the altar and got saved. I got saved in my bedroom on my knees, and I asked the Lord to come into my life and join the church that I had been visiting quite frequently during that time. I finally joined the church, and God started dealing with me. And so 5 years later, I'm sitting at home, just kind of backtrack. During those 5 years, I'm going to Bible study. I'm being fed God is ministering to me. I'm really getting in the Word, studying at home. And so this was September 2003. So fast forward 2008, I'm full of the Word and full of Scripture and full of those life experiences with the Lord during those 5 years. And I'm sitting at home one day and I'm watching TV, and God literally spoke to me audibly and said, you know, I gave you a gift. You need to use it. I was like, whoa, okay. Wow. And I had been playing with poetry and different things throughout my life and never took it seriously. And so when I heard the voice of God in that moment, I literally shut everything down and I started writing and literally practicing my poetry and taking it seriously and, you know, YouTubing different poets and just kind of researching the whole thing a little bit and trying to figure out how to get started. And the Lord just kind of led me in the right direction. I sought out different poets in Houston. I called phone numbers and called different artists that I was able to connect to, and they just told me, man, just step out there, you know, find little open mic spots and just you know, start reciting your poetry that way and see where it takes you. And I ended up at what used to be the Shadow Bar downtown. It's a little poetry spot in downtown Houston, which is now another spot that's kind of owned by the same people, but they moved to a different spot. But back then, this was what, 2000, I don't know, 2010 or 11, and I had been going to different open mics for about a year or two at this point, and reciting at different, you know, a few different churches. But I went to this one particular event, and it was actually the last night that they were going to be at this particular spot. And so there's one particular poem that is entitled "Like that has become a staple of my poetry career, and ended up getting a standing ovation at that particular off that particular piece. And this one young lady stopped me as I was coming down off the stage, and she invited me to a New Year's event that they were having, and kind of everything kind of snowballed from there. When I went to this particular event at the church, that's where I met Educator and a couple other artists that I'm still closely connected with today. So, you know, I tried to shorten up that testimony as much as I could. It's a whole lot more detail to it, but that's kind of give everybody a summary of how I am where I am today.
That's awesome, man. You shared how in 2003 that you said you saw the vision from God in your bedroom of Him calling you away from a life of promiscuity and calling you to Him. That's pretty intense. I can't imagine what that was like, and there's not a lot of people that get that kind of experience or calling from Him. And then, you know, as you said, you listened to Him, you got on your knees and you came to the Lord around that time. And then in 2008, you said you're in the Word, and then you hear the voice of God calling to you, saying that He gave you that gift of poetry and putting words together in a way that would really reach into the hearts of man, and that began your career in poetry and spoken word. And after that, you said you ran into Educator at a party, which opened up a new chapter in your life and got you into a totally different level in your career. Could you speak a little bit about what it's been like hooking up with Educator and the other people in that crew?
Oh man. It's kind of hard to it's kind of hard to put into words how powerful that has been. When I met Educator, I had no CDs. People who don't know Educator, he's a Christian hip hop artist here, based out of Houston, also, and he's been in the game. Whew, almost 30 years now, if not, let's see, yeah, almost 30 years now. And so when I met him in 2010, and he'll say 2009, it's somewhere in there. But when I met him, and any other artist that has a relationship with him now will pretty much tell the same story, that when he meets you, 9 times out of 10, you're just starting out. You really don't have a whole lot of things established. And so in my case, I didn't have any CDs or anything, and I had a desire to put a poetry recording together, and didn't know really how to go about doing it. And so he asked me, "Do you have CDs, or do what do you got going on, or whatever?" And so I kind of told him, my desires, what I had, in my head or whatever, and didn't really have a plan put in place, but let him know what I wanted to do, and so he kind of, from that point, he took me under his wing as an artist, and just kind of, was there as a big brother for encouragement. And man, we built a powerful brotherhood type friendship, from that day forward. And it took about 6 years. I had different things going on in my life at the time, through those years. But 6 years later, I was able to produce a poetry album, and about a year before that, 2 years before that, Educator formulated Christian label by the name of I Am Gospels. And just kind of summarize what that is. It's really more than a label. It's a label / artist kind of a consulting type of community that Educator uses to encourage different artists. And he allows each artist to have their own freedom, and being creative, and doing what God has called them to do as an artist. And of course, he helps you put a CD together, make it look professional, and different things like that. So he was able to help me do that. And through that relationship, and through building with him and the other artists that were in the labels, I was able to come out with a second album, which is a rap album. I came out with that album actually within the same year, which is crazy. And so, yeah, man, God really started moving tremendously once I came out with the poetry album and it was released and everything. It's amazing what God will do when you accomplish one thing that He's called you to do. He'll open up more doors and he'll reveal more things to you that you didn't realize you had within you. So it's a whole lot of other things that I'm headed towards outside of music that he's gonna open up, different things within me and reveal different things to me. So it's a matter of stepping out on different things he tells you to do, not really knowing what's ahead. But if you go ahead and do it, then he'll open up, the why, what, when, where, and how once you step out on faith.
That's awesome. That's so true that we there's ultimately two ways to go in life. It's against God's will or with God's will, and with God's will does going along with God's will does have its challenges, but the difference is that we're not fighting against Him, and though those challenges come, we know that we have Him alongside us, pushing us through. You mentioned educator, and his name has been coming up a lot with the when I talk to the Houston-based hip hop artist. I know he's touched a lot of people's lives. You mentioned how he came into your life, y'all met, and he brought you alongside him, and he encouraged you. And since then, you've produced multiple projects. You have YJ Speaks, A Different Dynamic, and one of your most recent projects is called God is Greater. And from what I understand, that focused on the tragedy in Houston that happened due to Hurricane Harvey. Could you speak a little bit about that project, God is Greater, the process in writing it, and what that did to you and your faith?
Oh wow, yeah. Actually, it's funny. The same person that interpreted that vision that I had actually gave me a call about maybe 2 days before the storm hit. And I was sitting outside. I was on the phone with my dad. And it's funny. It brought back the memory of how all of this came about. It's funny. So I was talking to my dad and, received his call. I had to click over. Told my dad, hey, I'll call you back. So I'm on the phone. And just to give people a little background, this person is a good friend of mine's mother. And I was in the military with this person who's still my best friend to this day. And she lives in Chicago, and her mother lives there also. So we've kept in touch through the years. And so she called me, and she said, the Lord said everything's gonna be all right in the storm. And I said, okay, what storm? Because when you're dealing with somebody like that, when they say storm, and if you've been dealing with this person for as many years as I have, when she said storm, first thing came to my mind is like, okay, it's something, something that happened in my life, real tragic, or something finna happen. I wasn't thinking a literal storm. And so she was like, yeah, everything. God said everything's gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. He said, don't worry. Go through it. You're gonna get through it. I said, okay. All right. Amen. So she laughed. She was like, yeah, you laughing on, whatever. So she said, all right, I just called to tell you that, blah, blah. And you have a blessed day and praise the Lord. And I was like, okay, praise the Lord, So I kind of disregarded. I'm like, because at this point, dealing with her for so many years, she tell me something like that and say, trust God. I trust God. I don't worry about it. So I'm like, I'll be all right. All right. So I move on, go about my day or whatever. And at this point in my life, I don't watch the news a whole lot anymore. So I hadn't watched the weather report or anything. So maybe a day late, maybe the next day or so, I'm hearing about this storm that's coming, like this hurricane. I'm like, hold up, man. It's a hurricane. Like, I was tripping because I didn't know it was on the way. And I was like, oh snap, it's a hurricane. It's gonna hit. And then God always brings things back to your remembrance. And so it hit me when what she said on the phone. I was like, oh, all right. This the storm she was talking about. Yeah. So I was like, oh snap. Okay. So I said, all right, okay, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right. So when it hit, it was like, man, and it kept raining and it kept raining and it kept raining and we're watching the weather report and it's just like the storm just stopped and it just hovered over Houston. It didn't move for like 2, 3, 4. I don't know how long it was, but it was quite a few days. It just didn't move, and it just dumped rain and dumped rain and dumped rain, and everybody's Facebook Live and watching the water just rise and rise, and everybody's getting these memories back from when Tropical Storm Allison hit in 2001, which is when I hadn't been in Houston for a year at that time. So when that flood hit, I was what, 20, 21, 22 years old. I was scared. And so going through this one was not as scary. It wasn't as intense as the first one, but it was a little unnerving watching the water rise. And so, but again, God will bring back to my remembrance what my friend told me over the phone. Don't worry, you're going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. It's like, okay. So I wasn't really tripping. What really got to me was when I was watching the news and watching Facebook, especially Facebook, because a lot of people go on Facebook Live with their own personal situations and experiences with what they were going through. And so what I was seeing was a lot of people that I look up to. Man, they were going Facebook Live and they were showing their homes getting flooded out and their streets getting flooded out in front of their homes, and people were going, and then the aftermath, people were walking through their homes and they were full of water, and I was just seeing the discouragement and the pain and the hurt and even the worry on in some of these people that I looked up to in ministry, pastors, ministers, people in leadership positions in different religious organizations, and I was like, wow. And so it caused me to post different things of encouragement on Facebook. And so I started hashtagging God is greater. I started hashtagging Harvey didn't win. I started hashtagging these different things, and there was a track that I was listening to that I was wanted to use for a song, and so God put that track together with those hashtags, and it turned into a song. And so and then I've used the hashtag pray, don't worry, trust God, go to sleep. Like those were hashtags. Pray, trust, don't worry, trust God, go to sleep. Harvey didn't win, God is greater. Like all those were hashtags that I had posted. And I had tagged different people that were going through different things, and I was just praying for people, and God allowed me to put this song together. and that's how the song came about.
That's awesome.
And
That's awesome.
yeah.
You yeah, that song is called "God Is Greater," and it's I know it's
Hmm.
available on pretty much anywhere you can find music online. Just look for J. That's the letter J. Speaks, and you find "God Is Greater," and along with all the other projects you worked on. So you mentioned something about just seeing those that you looked up to in ministry, and I guess the worry that came naturally and expectedly. I guess it's not too much of a surprise that that with something as great as Harvey coming through, we can definitely lose our focus for a moment that God is
Oh yeah.
greater.
Oh yeah.
And we all face challenges in life that really challenge our faith, that put our faith to the test. Can you speak a little bit about some of the major challenges and opportunities you faced in your life and in ministry?
Hmm. Uh, many challenges and many opportunities. Still face those challenges today. As an artist, I think my biggest challenge as an artist is balancing, uh, is finding balance with, you know, ministry and life. And when I say ministry, I mean, operating in, your gift as an artist, as far as, finding time to write, finding time to meditate with God on what He would have you to convey over to the people, how He wants you to convey that over to the people, and uh, finding time to write songs and write poetry and uh, balancing, studio time and you know that budgeting that in your finances and different things like that, and then balancing the rest of your life, work, and you gotta work your 9 to 5, and uh, then balancing your church life and your prayer life, and balancing all of that around your personal relationship with Him, just as a whole in that regard. And so I think my biggest challenge is daily finding a balance in all of those things. And my biggest opportunities, um, I find that through what God has given me as a mission, through my gifts and different things like that, those opportunities are presented to me every time I minister, um, every time I am able to give the people what God has blessed me with. Opportunities are always presented to me when people come up to me and tell me how they were blessed by what I was said, and uh, blessed by this particular song or that particular song, or somebody sends me a message on Facebook about how they listened to this or they heard that and they were blessed by it, and I'm always able to either share my testimony of how how that particular song or poem came about, or uh, an opportunity to pray with that person comes about, or even an opportunity to lead that person to Christ comes about. So I thank God, and I'm very humbled by the gift that God has given me, because I understand the opportunities that it opens. It opens up, not just for me, uh, because it's not about me, but it opens up the opportunity for others. Um, and I believe that's why God gives us the gifts and talents that we do have is because it's not just simply to bless us, even though that's a perk and that's a plus um, that comes with what God blesses us with. But it's that's not the purpose for it. It's for um, encouraging the people and giving what God is giving you back to Him, so that He can pour it on to the rest of the world.
Amen. And yeah, I definitely agree with you that the gifts and talents that God blesses us with are primarily for the purpose of serving Him and bringing honor and glory to His name. And in turn, we are a blessing to others. That it's not just for our own benefit, but it's for the glory of His name and for the benefit of others. And we should always aim to serve the Lord in that manner. So,
Yes, sir.
alongside you being a poet and now a rapper, you're also an instructor. You're a teacher. So, if we could end on you discussing how you go about exemplifying the Christian faith as an instructor, what is that like, and maybe what challenges you face in that field.
Oh, of course, awesome. How do I exemplify my Christian faith through my profession? That can be summed up in one word, and that's love. I God allows me to show His love in every aspect of what I do in life. I mean, period. Um, as I'm teaching, as I'm instructing, um, and I put my all into giving my students everything they need to uh, to learn. Put it like that. If there's a question that is asked, I do my best to answer it. I try to. I almost. It's almost like I try to overteach. I probably give more information to my students than even my superiors probably would want me to give them. But this is what I do, and then I put a lot of energy into my lessons. And I'm learning. I learn as I go. Like every class experience that I have, I evaluate myself and I say, okay, what did I do that I could do better? And what information did I gain myself that I can use next time? And so through the years of me teaching, I've been teaching English as a second language for 4 years now. And so every year I've seen improvement in my own teaching styles, and um, it has paid off up until this point to where I'm able to give my students more than they even bargained for uh, in every class. And I just show them love. Like I literally love on my students. Um, I let them know if they have any problems, come please talk to me. No, I don't want to know all your business. I don't want to, be all in your personal life. But if anything in your life is affecting your ability to focus and learn in my class, please tell me. And they share their heart. A lot of them share their hearts with me. I've had students break down and cry and tell me different situations about what happened in their life in the past. And, you know, you have to understand, I'm dealing with people from war-torn countries. I'm dealing with people from Iraq. I'm dealing with people from Afghanistan. Like, I'm dealing with people who have literally lived through the things that we see on CNN every day. And it is very humbling to hear the stories that, compared to what CNN and Headline News and all these different news outlets show us, I'm hearing personal accounts. And it is very humbling, very touching, very, what can I say? It brings you back down to earth. You know, and I wish all Americans had the opportunity to really encounter these people, because it's very humbling. It's very humbling to build relationships with these people, and it's a kind of an awakening experience for me, because, like I said, the news and the media portrays one thing, but I'm seeing something totally different through the people that actually live there. So, man, I love it, and God is constantly confirming to me that I'm on the right path, doing what He's called me to do, and that He's pleased with what I'm doing through the reactions that I get from my students and from my the reactions that I get from my students, the reactions that I get from my peers, my fellow teachers, and the reactions that I get from my superiors. And I'm pretty sure they're all baffled at how I'm able to do what I'm able to do, and it's only because of Him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, definitely taking the time to listen to someone who comes from a totally different background than you is something that I think we all need to exercise a bit more, to just listen and meet people where they're at and just come
Right.
alongside them. Because even in our own lives, each of us at some point had somebody take the time to listen, um, and just come alongside us and help us and encourage us through some kind of situation. And you mentioned whatever you do, just do it with joy. Really love what it is that you're doing. Do it for the honor and glory of God, and like we mentioned earlier, to serve people. And I love how you summarized it, that whatever you do, it's out of love, and that's an outpouring of the love that God has given to you, and that's an awesome and beautiful thing. And that's pretty much how Jesus summarized it too, that our faith is ultimately about love, and that's how we exemplify the Christian faith, no matter where we're at, by the love of Christ pouring out into us and then through us into the world. Man, that's such a good word to end on. I thank you so much, Jay, for being on the show today, and I look forward to having you on again if you're up for it.
Oh, amen. Anytime. Yes, sir.
That's awesome, man. Well, again, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing the new projects you have coming up. Is there a place that the audience can find your work, a central place they can go to, maybe a website?
Oh, yeah. www.iamgospel.us /J Speaks. That's my personal link on the I Am Gospel website, and you can find all my projects and links to my projects on that particular page of that site. That's I Am Gospel, IAMGOSPEL .us /J Speaks, JSPEAKS.
Awesome.
And anywhere else, you can Google Jay Speaks the Poet, and I'll pop up. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm pretty much Jay Speaks the Poet everywhere except for Twitter. Is Poetic for Christ, POETIC, the number 4, Christ on Twitter. Everywhere else, Jay Speaks or Jay Speaks the Poet.
That's awesome. So if you're interested in hearing more about Jay Speaks, hearing his work or reading up on him and projects he has coming up, go ahead and check him out at iamgospel.us, or like he said, just type in Google Jay Speaks the Poet and he will definitely pop up. He's pretty much everywhere. Well, Jay, thank you for coming on the show, and we look forward to hearing from you again. You're in our prayers, and we're excited to see the many good works that God is going to do through you and the ministry He's blessed you with.
Amen. Oh, can I say one thing?
Oh, go ahead, man.
It's probably the next project that I'll be coming out with, and I'm really excited about it. But those of you who don't know, George here does a lot of things that I didn't know, a lot of other things that I didn't know he does. But yeah, he's a videographer and he does some other things, and I was like, wow. So your brother approached me a while ago. I don't know, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he's like, hey man. And those of you who don't know, he has a little brother named Josh, and they work together in ministry, and it's such an awesome, beautiful thing. I'm so happy to see both of y'all every time we able to connect. But yeah, he approached me about 2, 3 weeks ago. Like, yeah, man, I noticed you don't have no poetry videos. Man, I want to do a poetry video, man. Let me know. And I was like, okay. So I was like, man, okay, now I got to find a poem to do. So I went through my my Rolodex, so to speak, of all my stuff, and I was like, okay, let's do this one. So I picked one. I sent it to him, and so. Long story short, man, we working on a poetry video, man.
Awesome.
And so that's probably gonna be the next thing we do here in the near future, man. I'm excited about it. It's a powerful piece, man. Powerful.
That's awesome. Yeah, your work is definitely your work either has the audience leaning in to hear more, or just blown back to their seats with I call it a spiritual gut check. Make you just think about the words you just gave them. It's always good stuff. It's always good to hear you and see you on stage and perform. Oh man, thank you so much for this interview. I know this content is going to definitely bless many people out there. It has definitely been a blessing to me. Again, we look forward to hearing from you. We're excited about these lyric videos coming out and the new projects that you're going to be working on. Thank you so much.
Man, you're welcome. God bless you, man. Anytime.
I praise the Lord, He heard my cry. So with my heart, I testify. I praise the Lord, He heard my cry. So with my heart, I testify. I serve a God that never lies.
It's always a good time talking to Jay Speaks. He has such a great spirit, and it comes through in his music and in his spoken word. Every time I get to hang out with him, I always leave encouraged, because that's the type of guy he is. He wants to lift you up. He wants to encourage you. He wants to help you move forward in the work that God has called you to. If you want to find out more about Jay, check him out at iamgospel.us or look him up on Facebook, Jay Speaks the Poet. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. If this podcast has been a blessing to you, please share it with one of your friends or family. Again, thank you, and God bless.